Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Christine Bonner, and I am the president of Orange County Pit Bull Rescue. We are an OC-based registered nonprofit who has been working in the community since 2010. We work with various animal shelters both in and out of the county, along with other animal control agencies. However, due to the large volume of dogs and the high euthanasia rate at OC Animal Care, we tend to pull from there the majority of the time. From this working relationship, we have seen firsthand the heavy burden that exists within the OC Animal Care system and the results of these burdens, which are: the shelter does not employ qualified animal behavior professionals and therefore is unable to provide accurate dog evaluations through temperament testing, which results in dogs with unknown temperaments being adopted out to the public. And also a shelter system with short retention periods and high euthanasia rates of dogs that were deemed not adoptable by the inaccurate shelter evaluations. We as a rescue organization try to alleviate some of this heavy load by working together with OC Animal Care to conduct our own temperament testing of the dogs during our initial meetings with them at the shelter. I can tell you that 100% of the dogs we have met and pulled who were deemed not adoptable based upon the shelter's evaluations have in fact passed our temperament testing, and we have successfully adopted these dogs out through responsible adoptions within the Orange County area. The solution to fixing the limited system of care and ensuring public safety is not in this ordinance. With this ordinance, you are placing a dangerous dog label on the victim of severe animal abuse and also on the average dogs owned by the residents of this county, which will result in an increased number of dog intakes and along those same lines, more spending. In order to truly maintain public safety as a high priority, we respectfully request that you vote against this ordinance. We would then hope that you shift your focus towards ordinances that will give OC Animal Care and the residents of this community the support they need, through hiring qualified animal behavior professionals to conduct the temperament testing within the shelter environment, to truly know what dogs are being adopted out into our community. The creation of programs to ensure adoptions are done responsibly through a home check, along with a referral system to obedience training, veterinary care, and also to provide low-income options for these important animal care functions. And lastly, the creation of programs that will allow OC Animal Care to help, rather than punish the victims of these horrific fighting operations. There are rescues like us within the community and surrounding areas that are willing to provide support to OC Animal Care when these situations do occur. Thank you for your time.
I'm Corinne D'Ambrosio with SoCal Pitbull Team. You'll see many familiar faces here to speak with you again about the proposed dangerous dog ordinance, as well as many new faces, including trainers, animal behavioral specialists, animal law attorneys, and just plain concerned citizens. There are nurses and lawyers, students and teachers, and many, many pit bull owners who have concerns that many of the board members have cloaked breed discriminatory legislation or misconceptions into this supposedly breed neutral ordinance. So last week there were 7 of us here to speak out against this ordinance. There's 11 speaking, but there's 20 to 30 of us that have been here in this room. This should present clear evidence to you that your constituents do not support this proposed ordinance. If this is still not enough to persuade you to rethink this ordinance, perhaps this petition, with over 4,000 signatures, will. As of this morning, 4,061 people signed SoCal Pitbull Team's petition urging you to amend this ordinance, and this number is growing by the minute. Perhaps some of you would lay claim that these are outsiders somehow, or not real people that have signed or that are coming to speak or signing this petition, but the sheer volume of signatures should send you a clear message that we won't let our representatives rubber stamp legislation concerning these vulnerable animals without making our voices heard. Here's just a few of the reasons that Orange County residents, so if you look through this petition, there's signatures as far as Germany, as Rio de Janeiro. However, the majority are coming from right here in California. Jennifer Carey of Laguna Hills, California. This ordinance is poorly written and lacks logic. It will not curb dangerous dogs issues or help educate dog owners. However, it will label all dogs, all types of breeds, only causing more bureaucratic hoops for responsible dog owners. Melissa Armstrong from Costa Mesa, California. A vast amount of evidence shows that not all dogs seized in fight busts are dangerous or vicious. Countless dogs will be euthanized needlessly as a result of this ordinance. And Angela Kirkman of Orange, California, right down the street. Please use compassion with making laws instead of bias and fear. Dogs can be rehabilitated. They have no voice except for ours. Let's show them the love that they would show us if we only gave them the chance. And if the voices of those close to home don't make an impression on you, perhaps this message from a supporter as far away as Brazil might. Diego Nunez of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He writes, I believe in the right of every living being to have a second chance of being reintroduced into society. Dogs have been victims of circumstance for so long, yet it's not their fault, and most of them can still get out of situations many of us wouldn't even believe in and still make good pets. Given this chance, it would set a great example for other states, if not other countries.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
I moved to Orange County on August 1st of last year with one intent and one intent only, to adopt a pit bull by the name of Sunshine. Downey Shelter deemed her human aggressive, dog aggressive. Her rescue deemed her the same. I found her back in May of last year. I adopted her officially August 1st of last year. This dog has not once attempted to bite me, growl at me, or anything, but yet you have shelter workers, rescues, deeming a dog vicious. And under your new ordinance, she would be dead. The shelter assumed she was a bait dog. Again, under your new ordinance, that alone, she would be dead. Okay? I applaud you for trying to be creative when we have places like Pasadena just outright wanting to kill every single pit bull. You guys are taking a creative approach with your different levels. The ordinance clearly defines level 1, 2, and 3. It clearly defines what a severe dog bite is. Your ordinance probably no less than 100 times refers to somebody known as a director. What qualifications does this director have to say a dog is aggressive or not aggressive? What qualifications does this director have to say my dog should be dead? What qualifications do each of you have, along with the director, to say that a dog seized from a dog fighting ring should be considered a level 2 dog? Nobody has evaluated that dog, but yet you want to stick a label on it. Has the fighting bust from Michael Vick 6 years ago not taught anybody? Has the Missouri 500 bust 5 years ago not taught us anything? Has the 387 multi-state bust last August not taught us anything? I want to leave you with one thought. When we give the criminals, like a Michael Vick and all of these other dog fighters, a second chance, and we neglect to give the true victim, the dogs of these fighting rings that are abused, a second chance, we have failed as a society. Please do not move forward with this ordinance.
Welcome. Good morning, board. My name is Barbara Telesmatic. I was here last week. I'm a resident of Orange County, and I'm the co-founder of SoCal Pitbull Team. I created some folders for you guys because you're going to hear me and other people speak of current comprehensive evidence-based science, and I just wanted to provide you with some of that information. I know the proposed amendments to this ordinance aren't breed-specific per se, but there seems to be some underlying breed-specific misconceptions directly resulting from misinformation. We don't want unintentional bias affecting the decision-making process that will directly affect the people and dogs of Orange County. I've made these folders for you in part because it's nearly impossible to be an expert on everything that comes across your desk. And I wanted to provide you with the most progressive evidence-based data available from accredited organizations as well as individual experts. My hope is that this will provide a resolution for the best and safest scenarios for our community. Mirroring established programs that have actually increased public safety versus the proposed ordinance, which would put a tremendous strain on the already overburdened Orange County shelter system, as well as its citizens, is inversely proportionate to responsible governance. I feel if we were discussing Labrador Retrievers, Beagles, or Dalmatians who were forced into a cruel, abusive circumstance, they would be viewed as victims without issue and not illogically labeled as vicious to animals. Bait dogs, fight dogs, game dogs, whichever vernacular you choose to use, doesn't change the fact that all dogs, used by humans as an extension of their own aggressive tendencies, are victims of the worst form of animal cruelty. With up-to-the-minute science-based facts by veterinarians, geneticists, and PhDs ensuring us that no breed is more prone to aggression than any other, has overwhelmingly debunked the myths and fear-based data that has plagued our dogs and our citizens for decades. After personally consulting with Letty Vankevich, the past chair of the American Bar Association Tort Trial and Insurance Practice Section Animal Law Committee, she confirmed with me that there are no documented cases of any bites or attacks from any dog that was rescued from a fight bust. Fight dogs should be evaluated like any other dog seized in a cruelty case. Letty is also the current senior legislative analyst for Best Friends Animal Society, as well as being a nationally recognized expert on all issues connected with pit bull type dogs. As respected board members, do your due diligence and provide your constituents with a comprehensive and current resolution which have been proven to increase public safety. Designating dogs held captive in fight rings as level 2 vicious, punishing dogs defending their homes from stray animals, and collectively penalizing look-alike dogs or dogs that look a certain way are not reasonable solutions. This will put a tremendous financial and emotional strain on the residents of Orange County. Enforcing existing laws that hold owners accountable instead of punishing innocent dogs is the proven way to improve public safety and reduce dog bites.
I'm here. I sent you all an email last week with a letter. I just want to clarify a couple of the points. The major point I want to clarify is that I did do a research project for a private client, a huge project. I looked at all the cases of shelter liability in the United States and Puerto Rico. And I found that there were five cases that dealt with potential liability for adopting a dog. None of those cases found that the shelter was liable. The issue here is really clear. As long as the shelter discloses what they know about the dog and transfers ownership of the dog, there's simply no liability. This data has not been questioned by anybody. I presented it twice at American Bar Association conferences, or I'm sure naysayers would love to tell me that I'm wrong. I'm simply not. I've been up to date with this research. I get LexisNexis dingers constantly, so I know that the research is still good data. So please look at this. This is law. You need to not be passing this ordinance based on fear. Instead, look at the authority. The other point I want to make is that there was a question last week about the cost that would be incurred by Orange County if you had to evaluate and place dogs from dog fight busts. While I understand that there was money available in the Vick case because of a settlement that Mr. Vick agreed to, there has been no money in any subsequent dog fight bust cases that all of those costs were incurred by the behavior evaluators, the rescues, and the people that placed those dogs. Those agencies did not incur any additional costs. The other point I do want to make is that based on the comments last week, it does appear to me that this is an effort by Orange County to pass breed-specific legislation without admitting that you're doing so. So I really ask you to please look at the data, listen to all the people that are speaking today, and rethink passage of this ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Board of Supervisors, my name is Joel Solomon. Real privileged to be here today. I'd like to applaud you on some great progress you're making with regards to this ordinances. First of all, there are no bad dogs. There are bad owners. And when you take a look at your constituents in this great county, many of whom who have dogs, you can't look at the dog, you must look at the dog owner. So much of the ordinances that exist today are really very, very well laid out. If you have a bad owner, there's going to be responsibility. You can't commit a dog defending his own property and put that dog in a level 2 situation because some other dog, not controlled by its owner, comes onto that dog owner's property. That dog is doing what it instinctively should do. By the way, they don't have conversations. They usually give warning, but at the end of the day, that dog is on its own property where we want it to be. So what I would like to really point out as well is that we are a proud owner of a golden retriever for 14 and a half years. Every day is a blessing with him. I've had golden retrievers all my life. I'm very proud to have adopted a pit bull that was accused of being in a fighting ring. This is the greatest dog that has made the biggest impression on me, my friends, my family. He's known as Herbie the Love Bug. So please, if this is a little move to being dog specific, I would encourage you to continue to work with some of the constituents that are here to really come up with the right type of wording that makes a bad dog owner responsible in a way that will absolutely protect the public. Thank you.
I am an owner of 2 pit bulls and a golden retriever, and I volunteer at the Dana Point San Clemente Animal Shelter. Some things that I wanted to point out is that, unfortunately, I'm not sure that the board is aware, but the majority of dogs in any of these dog fighting cases show no evidence of ever having been fought. A dangerous dog label would effectively condemn breeding bitches and puppies and dogs that are being boarded for breedings and many other dogs that haven't been near a fight. Animal welfare groups, of course, cannot accept these same dogs with dangerous definition, so they would be destroyed unnecessarily and based on nothing but the fact that they were swept away from the same address that these other dogs were taken from. It's now become an industry standard in animal welfare for professionals to evaluate the dogs from these cruelty cases in order to make intelligent, practical disposition decisions. Rejecting the industry standard would show Orange County in a very bad light. Progressive municipalities now look to the numerous precedents that have been set around the country. The California State Code allowing dogs from fighting cases to be labeled as dangerous is now obsolete and does not reflect common knowledge. We don't like to use the word rehabilitate for these dogs. The majority of these dogs from cruelty cases do not need rehabilitation and are treated just as puppy mill survivors are treated. Dogs from these cases should be handled as animal shelters handle the regular shelter dog population. All dogs judged as individuals on a case-by-case basis. It's industry standard for animal welfare groups to absorb all liability with transfer of ownership of these dogs and to sign hold harmless waivers. NACA guidelines for disposition of these dogs from cruelty cases as well. I would like to thank you all for reconsidering this ordinance, and hopefully we will come to a good solution here, resolution. Thank you.
My name is Marla Tauscher. I'm an animal attorney. I practice primarily in the area of animal shelter and animal control law. There are a number of problems with this proposed ordinance, not the least of which is automatically labeling dogs as vicious after they've already been subjected to just unspeakable horror and treatment. It just reflects old ideas. It reflects old thinking. It's a big step backwards in animal welfare. And it's disgraceful, frankly, and it's totally unfair. It's just a wholesale condemnation of a group of animals that by their nothing they've done, based on circumstances, would condemn them to death for nothing. And it's not fair. That attitude is about as enlightened as the type of backwards society that would ostracize or marginalize women who have been the victims of rape. You know, they're cast aside as damaged goods, just as you're seeking to do with these dogs. It has nothing to do with anything they've done. And it's completely unfair. It also fails to take into consideration a number of things which were just brought up. There are a number of dogs that are involved in a dog fighting ring that have never been anywhere near a fight. There are bait dogs, which are the subordinates, they weren't good enough fighters. And so you're going to condemn them to death too? Or how would you even know the difference? How would you know if it's a bait dog? They're going to be scarred just like the fighting dogs. Then you have the breeding females, they're puppies. Are you going to kill them too? I mean, you can't paint them all with the same brush. And that's just not the way things are done anymore. It's just not. These dogs should be evaluated based on their individual characteristics. It's the only fair thing to do. As someone else brought up, we're willing to rehabilitate the people who tortured them. We're willing to, to do whatever it is to get them back into society. It's just completely unfair and barbaric, frankly, to just decide these dogs are all vicious because somebody said so. I urge you to really reconsider this ordinance. I think it needs a lot of work. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Penelope Mill. I'm a charter member of the Association of Professional Dog Trainers, and I'm a certified dog behavior consultant. I've been shelter staff at animal shelters like the Ludo Beach Animal Shelter. I'm a consultant to various animal rescue groups, and I coach staff at dog daycares on doing behavior evaluations. I would say that we all have the same goal, and that is increased public safety, and ideally at the lowest possible price. But we are more likely to get there by deploying good information. Specifically with this ordinance, I do have some of the same concerns as others have listed, and that is categorizing dogs simply based by the location that they were found rather than by a science-based behavior evaluation increases risk. It doesn't decrease risk. Many of these dogs will do well if placed. Some of the dogs will not, will need some rehabilitation, and some of the dogs won't be placeable. But that's true of any set of dogs in a shelter situation, and the way we would determine the difference is by science-based tests with that have excellent track records in similar situations. I would also say that one of the big concerns here is for me, is the definition of level 1 and level 2 dogs that inflict injury on a domestic animal. Essentially here we're condemning normal dog behavior. The definitions of domestic pets includes things like lizards and birds. I would also note that although the ordinance very nicely defines a number of terms and increases accuracy that way, it does not define what provocation is from a domestic animal to a dog. So although the ordinance suggests that provocation would be necessary, it doesn't determine what it is from an animal to an animal. And I think any animal behavior professional would suggest that the presence of a lizard or a rapidly moving bird next to a dog, it is normal dog behavior for normal dogs to be activated by small animals next to them. 95% of the dogs in Orange County would be one coincidental step away from a vicious dog declaration, because almost all of them would do that behavior. It is normal dog behavior. So in fact, I think that significantly decreases safety. I see with my clients all the time that people don't think of their dogs, people think of dogs as two categories, Lassie or Cujo, completely safe or vicious, and it actually impairs their ability to think accurately about their dog's behavior. If we tell people that vicious dogs are the ones who would go after a cat or bite at a bird, now people think, okay, well, I'm fine because my dog's not vicious. If we explain to people that normal dog behavior is to be interested in, activated by, put your mouth on small animals, now we've set people up to be safer. So I would suggest reconsidering the necessity to define provocation animal to animal, and considering whether in fact it's vicious dog behavior or normal dog behavior to be interested in other small furry critters.
Hi, my name is Josh Lee. I personally find this to be really troubling, a really troubling thing that you guys are trying to do. The thinking behind this dog confiscation stuff is the equivalent to busting up a child kidnapping and sex operation, and then you subsequently deeming all of those victims to be deviants, prostitutes, or sex offenders. You'd officially be piling on, ruining that person's life that much more than it's already been ruined. In that case, the victims are essentially stolen children, physically and mentally abused, who are being held against their will and forced into a wicked lifestyle. With dog fighting, it's not really that much different, especially when you get into the realm of bait dogs and even with the fighting dogs, many of which would probably rather be doing anything other than that. With this new proposal, you'd be turning your back on all of them, and because of what? Being too careless to want to give them a genuine temperament evaluation? This all tells me that you must not view dogs as individuals and rather as simply objects who are not discernible from one another. Ryan Drabeck, the Orange County Director, I don't know if he's here or not, but I've known him since I think 2010 when I used to come into a shelter and photograph his dogs. I've got to tell you, Ryan, I'm super disappointed in hearing that you are in any way aligned with this proposal. Lastly, the fact that some of you seem to think that you can come into people's homes and take a lot of their animals when there's an unidentified offending animal and give them all 3 or 4 or 5 different animals a strike or a designation against their temperament, that's totally illegal. Where is the due process with such a move like that? Many times shelters are able to get away with ignoring due process because many people don't have the information or the resources to be able to stand up for themselves. But that doesn't make it any less wrong. Honestly, you'd be opening yourself up to many lawsuits, so I'd really hope that you reconsider taking such drastic steps backwards. And now that I have a minute left, I just want to say that my friend Ben is here with his therapy pit bull. He didn't get his public comment card in time, but his dog Boss would have been swept up in an ordinance similar to this, and he's now a therapy pit bull who is fantastic and sitting right next to me. If you guys would want to see him, he's in the back row. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Shelley Rosati. I'm an attorney, and I'm here this morning on behalf of the Animal Legal Defense Fund. I've asked that some packets be given to you that I will be referring to. These packets include the very specific statutory language that you're considering, as well as the state statutory language. I'd like to clarify that last week I blubbed a little and I referred to SB 722 as a California statute. SB 722 is a statute that the state of Florida passed, removing the stigma and label of dogs subjected to cruel treatment after the largest animal fighting raid in U.S. history, where 500 dogs and puppies were rescued across 8 states, and by the way, 60% of those dogs were adopted into homes. Now, contrary, just jumping right into the provision 4-1-23B7, now contrary to what was represented last week by Mr. Drabeck and Mr. Spitzer, I would really hope that you as an attorney would take another look at 599AA, because I believe your analysis was incorrect. There is no discretion under 599AA of an animal control officer seizing or not seizing animals when an arrest is made under 597.5. There is no representative sample exclusion. It is a shall seize all animals when an arrest is made under 597.5. That's on handout 4. This is a mandatory provision. The representative sample language only comes into play after the seizure, when the animal control officer is trying to make a decision whether it's more humane to leave the animals on site or move them to an animal care facility. So there's no exclusion for bait dogs, or as Supervisor Nelson called them, Jurassic Park, thrown a giraffe in there, it's going to get torn up dogs. And Supervisor Nelson, it's clear you think a pit bull is a pit bull is a pit bull. You refer to them as ticking time bombs, which is common language used to incite public fear. And you don't think these dogs can ever be rehabilitated, even when there's clear statistical data to prove otherwise. 4-1-23A3, we would like language added, and off its owner's property after without provocation. Not having this in there would have the effect of making a dog level 1 when a stray animal comes onto the property and is injured. Indeed, even Section F of your ordinance says that a dog is not deemed provoked if a person is willfully trespassing. So it's hard to believe that this ordinance as written would have the intention of holding a dog to a higher standard when it injures an animal than when it injures a human. This would also address Mr. Drabeck's situation he described last week, where his dog was injured by another dog and invited onto his property. That would be the distinction, and trespassing animal or non-trespassing animal. And this is important because if an animal is labeled as level 1 under the scheme, the dog can be declared as a public nuisance and will give the director the ability to destroy the dog.